There is no mod in the modding community that I have been as involved and invested in as the GachaSP. Maybe it's because I adore the Game Boy Advance, and outside of the slabs and slates and other lengthening procedures, there aren't really any mods to go around that completely transform the Game Boy Advance. Maybe it's because I think Joseph, the designer of the GachaSP, is a really stellar guy. Or maybe I just want to be an advocate for those work in progress because a big YouTuber who's not in the modding scene and barely knows how to use a soldering iron did basically a diss piece on the GachaSP, which led to his cabbage-brained followers harassing me and Joseph separately. Much love to Jonas, who went absolutely uncredited in the video for his work on the PCB, that being a blessing in disguise as he got no flack. Anyway, I'm your cool Uncle Marissa, and I'm here again with another iteration of the GachaSP, and perhaps the last iteration of its kind. If this is your first video on it, the GachaSP is, well, it's this guy. And it is a project that has been the work of Joseph Tompkins, who is really an amazing designer in the modding community, and he's got some really great 3D prints and designs, and he also makes music, so check out his links in the description. He has worked with Jonas, also known as Retro Game Evo, to create a PCB that attaches to the SP PCB to create this little vaguely Playdate inspired version of the SP. It uses a custom front, and it uses the OEM or aftermarket shell for the Game Boy Advance SP for the back. Something you'll notice if you've seen all my videos on it is that while I love it so much, there's always room for progress. And of course, as it is a work in progress. But you guys, we are so close to getting like the final iterations. And I feel like I keep saying this, like I'm pretty sure I've had at least 2 videos where I'm like, okay, this is it, this is the last one, I think it's all good. But no, it just keeps coming, and I'm making this video this time with the full knowledge that I don't know how much I can reveal, so I will only say that there will be a new design coming out which has a ton of improvements that I've asked for and that I've heard from you guys as well. But I just wanted to talk about this and give it a proper, not even goodbye, a proper hello, a proper final evolution of this GachaSP line. And I'm making it sound like it's going to be forsaken. It is not going to be forsaken. It is going to continue being supported. There's just going to be more, and I'm excited. Anyway, I'm pretty positive in my last GachaSP video, I was like, this is the last GachaSP video. Now what ended up happening was I damaged my screen ribbon cable for the like RetroPixel FunnyPlaying display. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll just buy a new ribbon. FunnyPlaying just kind of discontinued that. FunnyPlaying kind of is just doing their own thing in general these days. I don't know what that is, but they're doing it. And so all that was available is the FunnyPlaying M2 screen. And Joseph, fully knowing this, created a new revision of the front to accommodate the FunnyPlaying M2 screen. And after much hemming and hawing, I realized that it probably would make more sense just to get that and the M2 screen, especially because, in my personal opinion, while the RetroPixel SP screen was really nice, there were a lot of quality control issues. I got like 2 faulty screens in a row, and this is a big reason why I often recommend getting FunnyPlaying stuff from Retro Modding or Retro Game Repair Store or Zed Labs or whoever is local to you, because that way they can kind of do the quality control and do the customer service part for you, and you don't have to deal with like it being super far or FunnyPlaying customer service and their whims, because they can be like respectful or not based on their mood, I feel like. Anyway, the M2 screen, I was like, okay, I guess we gotta do this. So, you know, I hit up my friends at PCBWay, and thanks to them, I got the new front that accommodates the M2 screen. And of course, this video is made possible then by PCBWay. If you don't know PCBWay by now, I don't know where you've been. but welcome. PCBWay, they manufacture PCBs as well as CNC machining and 3D printing. Those are the main things I use them for. There is no better way to show off PCBWay's features than directly with this project. So creators can have their own project pages, and here is Joseph Tompkins with all his amazing creations. And when you order directly from their page, they also get a small commission, which is a fantastic way to support makers and creators. So if we grab the GachaSP October 2024 edition, which is the version that we are using, we can scroll down and we can add the parts we need to our cart. Let's say we want this CNC machined. We can pick a variety of different metals. Aluminum is a great option for this. And then we have so many different options for our finish. We can get it anodized and bead blasted, which makes it nice and smooth and chemically alters it to the color of your choice. If you would like more variety, there are spray painting and powder coating options where you can pick anything from the Pantone color book. And of course, we also need the PCB to make this work, and we can find this on Jonas's own PCBWay page. All we do is hit add to cart and it pulls up our quote right here. You can pick the number of pieces, and you can also pick different colors for your solder mask and silk screen. There's even the option to UV print, so you can really add your own flair, especially if you are doing a transparent build. PCBWay also offers assembly services in the event that you don't have time or you don't feel you have the skill it needs to complete a project like this, and they will send you a PCB with all of the components soldered on. You can also order stencils from them if you're making large batches and you don't want to place every single bit of solder paste by hand and drive yourself mad. Make sure to check out PCBWay and use my affiliate link in the description for a small discount off your first order. A massive thank you again to PCBWay for their support on this video and so many others that make this channel what it is. Now, other than the fitment for the M2 screen, and really kind of for the M2 screen only, because I was looking at other display kits and stuff. And for example, High-Speed has one, and I love High-Speed. Their Q5 screen for Game Boy Color is amazing. So the FunnyPlaying screens, if you see them outside of the box, they are just like this. Whereas the High-Speed screen and stuff, they have like these bumps and bevels. So unfortunately, you can't use them. You can only use displays which are clean rectangles, and I believe FunnyPlaying is the only one that I've seen that does that. If you know of other screens that have just like a perfect rectangle, let me know in the comments just so that people can have more options. You can also see that there were some slight differences in reinforcements for the new version. For example, we've got 2 screws instead of 3, which while it seems like fewer reinforcements, it's actually better because I feel like it doesn't interfere with the screen as much. And then we've got the speaker holes gone. Why are the speaker holes gone? Why are the speaker holes gone? So this was the initial middle piece for the display. Come on, buddy. There we go. And the new middle piece, I'm gonna just show you right here because I only had one and it's in there now. It has a hole for the speaker, right? For the OEM speaker. And that is pretty fantastic because if we roll back, so the very beginning, we had no speaker, essentially. I mean, we had like this little rectangular guy eventually. It was not very loud, and I couldn't get it to fit where it was supposed to fit, but you know, it fit in the overall sandwich. And this mod, I've said it before, like, it is challenging, not because it takes a lot of know-how to do. Of course, you do need to be able to solder well. You do need a hot plate for the button switches, etc., etc. You need to be able to know how to use a multimeter, you know, things that a modder knows how to do in order to get it to succeed. But in terms of the biggest challenge, it's like sandwiching everything together. That is the hardest part. So you need patience, but you also need a gentle hand and, you know, an understanding of how to keep everything secure. But yeah, so that was part of the sandwich. It was a pretty quiet speaker overall. Joseph did suggest that you could use the Nintendo Switch speaker as well. That's not something I personally tried, but I completely believe that it is louder. But with the original Game Boy Advance SP speaker being able to be used, it's pretty much the same volume as an actual SP. It's not ridiculously loud, it's not super quiet, it's a reasonable volume, and there's no holes for it in terms of speaker holes because it's placed in the middle. However, you have enough gaps for the noise to come out anyway, so it doesn't feel muffled. That's a big improvement. And then we kind of get to the annoying bit. This has been my issue from the very beginning, has been the switches for the buttons. The main question and the main assumption I had when this was first released in like the version 1 public release, why not just Game Boy Advance SP tactiles? Everyone uses them, they're accessible, they're Alps switches, they feel great, but they're too big. So the PCB on this is really small, and so you wouldn't be able to fit all of those. So Jonas had found like this very small switch that was a bit of a challenge, and then he found a different small switch, and that was the previous iteration that I made, and I actually used some Kapton tape and stuff to kind of help muffle the sound because it wasn't as hard. It didn't take as much force to press as the original version, but it was still quite loud. These are very they feel very much like on-off switches, power button switches. They don't feel like switches that you could comfortably hold for an extended amount of time. And as such, I have sort of been in a kind of, this is still an arcade machine. This is still you want to get that feedback from the tactile, and some people like that, but I personally am not a huge fan of it. So this time I decided to make things really hard for myself, because why not? I was like, surely there are Alpine switches that fit this footprint, because those are great switches. They are good switches. And lo and behold, the switch that you use for the brightness button on an original Game Boy Advance SP is a tiny, tiny bit bigger than the footprint. Just a tiny bit. And if you've ever done micro soldering, you know a tiny bit goes a long way. It's not that easy. It's not like fitting into a shirt that's slightly too small. But you know, I did it, and I dragged the solder, and it was a pain, and I lost many switches. Press F to pay respects, but ultimately I got it. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I mean, if you have a Game Boy Advance SP, it sounds like the brightness button, and the brightness button is pretty quiet. The actuation force listed is 1.6. For reference, the D-pad and AB buttons on a Game Boy Advance SP are 1.0, and 1.0 is a very popular one. I know Froggo Customs uses the 1.0 switches for his mods as well, and they're very comfortable. They feel like membrane buttons with a punch. And this is perfect, and I don't know why Jonas didn't go with the brightness buttons from the very beginning, because they're just such an obvious answer. But also, I think that this was maybe one of his early experiments in PCBs as well, and I literally still don't know how to make a PCB. So I'm not here to tell anyone, oh, you did a bad job, you could have done better. Like, well, why don't I do better? So I pass this information on that, like, you know, if you guys want to keep doing the tactile switch boards, definitely change the footprint for the brightness button. It is the perfect button for this. The size, the feel, solved. Problem solved. Like, I thought I solved it last time by putting tape on it, but it's still, it's better. It's better with the tape on it. But this is best. This is correct. This is the correct way to do it. However, I highly recommend that you just wait for whatever iteration is coming next instead of putting yourself through what I put myself through. Unless you want to, you know, I'm not your boss, I'm not your mom. You know, you shouldn't even let your boss or your mom make you do things that you don't want to do. you're your own person. So yeah, if you want to do this, go for it. But it was definitely a pain in the butt. Now I don't want to dedicate too much of this video to this, but I have to point it out and I have to say thank you. You might have noticed that my buttons are like kind of a swirly, like berry yogurt look, and then the middle ones are transparent, but we're not talking about those. So a couple of things about this. The very first iteration of the GachaSP, another one of my complaints was that the buttons were too low. Solution to that, Joseph made 3D printed buttons that are basically the SP buttons, but taller. Now the thing about those buttons is when you're 3D printing with resin, with a manufacturer, and you want something to have color, your options are pretty limited, and the options that you have that are vast, such as spray painting or dyeing, are really expensive. And so in true me fashion, my response to this was, well, I'll do it myself. Because last time I was like, well, you can just put different membrane colors in the back and use transparent buttons, which is what is happening with the Start and Select button. So anyway, yeah, that's why I decided to learn how to do resin casting. And a huge thank you to my friend Fanny. She makes gorgeous, beautiful keycaps, artisan keycaps. Please check her out. She's in the description. Her work is amazing. I'm so afraid that she's going to go blind at the rate she does things, just so detailed with her naked eyeballs. But she makes these amazing creations with UV resin, which is really funny because UV resin gets such a bad rap, but also there's so little information about it. Like there's a very the masculine urge to tell people not to use UV resin and use epoxy resin in your garage that you totally have. But she uses UV resin and she makes the most gorgeous things in the world, and she was so generous helping me out and helped me understand how to get into mold making and casting these buttons, and I did, and I love them. And a big reason was also going back to shout out to Joseph. I think these buttons could actually do really well even in something like the Tad Boy color or the Frog Boy color by Froggo Customs, which use Game Boy Advance SP buttons, because they give that bit of height, and for longer play sessions, that bit of height can be really helpful. I was playing on my Frog Boy color at one point and I felt a bit of fatigue in my thumb, and that's kind of what inspired it. I was like, what if I put Joseph's buttons in this? I haven't tried that yet. Stay tuned, probably. But yeah, these are great because they get to be pretty, and I made them myself. And if you want me to sell you some, no, because it's a lot of work. I'm still learning, and honestly, there's only so many hobbies I can monetize before losing who I am as a person. Instead, go buy something from my friend Fanny. But if you want buttons that are high like this, you can 3D print them at home or resin print them at home, or you can go to today's partner PCBWay and have them print them. They're actually on Joseph's page on PCBWay, which is linked in the description as well. So many links in this description, and you can just order them from there. And ordering them in black, white, transparent are the cheapest. Again, I do stand by my opinion that ordering transparent resin and then using a different colored membrane in the back can give you a pop of color without breaking the bank. Also, grab yourself some polishing cloth. You can smooth out the resin and make it nice and shiny as well. That is my update on the GachaSP as the unofficial third wheel of this project, and I'm really excited for what I've heard so far. I feel like a lot of the kind of persistent or slow moving elements of improvement are going to be getting quite drastic improvements. So very close, I think, to what sounds like it's going to be the final form, even though I know I've said a final form before. But they just keep making it better, okay? And it's a fun journey to be on. I've made a playlist for the GachaSP on my channel, so you can kind of go through and watch all the iterations. The earlier ones do even have assembly instructions. So if you're interested in making your own with this current version, you can follow like kind of the general instructions there. If general instructions aren't enough, maybe sit this one out for a bit until a different revision comes out. But even if you can follow those, I still would recommend just waiting a little, just wait a little bit longer, just a little bit longer until you don't have to like fit switches that are slightly too big onto a footprint that's slightly too small. And another thing about this is that the M2 screen, I want to do kind of like a review on it, but I have to say it's very cool. It has a bunch of different color modes, a bunch of different like display modes. It's a very feature-rich screen, but because we don't have any brightness button, and because due to the aluminum shell, you don't have the touch sensor, it's not functional, you just have to cut it off. Unfortunately, we're not able to take advantage of the M2 screen in this form yet. In the meantime, I'm sure there's fantastic reviews out there, but definitely it seems to be a step up from the Retro Pixel, a bit of like a nice landing point for FunnyPlaying on this screen. As always, a huge thank you to my Ko-fi subscribers and members, as well as anyone who gives a one-time donation. I do have a membership program on Ko-fi now where you can get access to exclusive blog posts about like these teeny tiny mods I might do that aren't really worth making a video, but it's nice to document, nice to share. Maybe it will be inspiring to you in one way or another. Also monthly game reviews, and we also have a Discord if you want to pop by and talk to like-minded people, ask for help on something, suggestions. It's a very stellar and cozy group of folks. And once again, a huge thank you to everyone who has come together to make this what it is. Thank you so much to Joseph for building this, for designing this, for letting me give my opinions at you all the time, and a big thank you for continuing to develop this cutie pie. Thank you to Jonas for developing the PCB for this. A huge thank you to Fanny for walking me through resin casting like a little baby that I am, asking questions like why are shapes? And a giant thank you as always to PCBWay for making this video possible by partnering with me to send me this gorgeous shell. This is anodized aluminum. You guys might have seen my like powder coated and painted stuff from them before, but this is my first anodized. Anodized, you have limited color options, but I saw this green on one of their sample pages and I just left a comment. I was like, could you match this green? Like, it's okay if not, but could you match it? Because it's really pretty. And they did, and it is stunning in my opinion. And last but not least, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget that you are always welcome at Cool Uncle's house. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.